Hey everyone. Buckle up because today's deep dive might get a little uncomfortable. We're going deep into the world of societal expectations. The ones around dating and relationships.
Especially as we get a little older.
Exactly. It can get complicated.
It's a sensitive topic, that's for sure. People have strong opinions about this stuff.
They do, and that's what makes it so interesting to explore.
Absolutely.
So, to get things started, we're diving into a YouTube video today. The title is, get this, 42-year-old overweight senorita doesn't want to admit the truth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's from a channel called Kevin Samuels. Have you heard of him?
Kevin Samuels, yeah, I know his style is, let's say, direct.
Direct is one way to put it.
He definitely doesn't sugarcoat things.
That's for sure. The
Yeah.
video is basically a conversation between Kevin Samuels, who called himself a relationship consultant, and a 42-year-old woman who called into his show for advice.
Okay, interesting setup.
Yeah, so what we're going to do today is break down both sides of the conversation, analyze what they're saying and how they're saying it, and hopefully you'll walk away with some stuff to think about, like personal choices, pressures from society, all that good stuff.
Sounds like we're going to be dissecting some serious relationship dynamics today.
That's the plan. So let's start with the woman who called into the show. Right away, she's very open about what she wants, marriage, maybe kids, and she'd love to be a stay-at-home wife.
Okay, so pretty traditional picture.
Yeah, you could say that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because right away we're dealing with all these cultural expectations, right? Like what society tells us we should want or be doing at a certain age.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge part of this, all that baggage that
Yeah,
comes with those traditional aspirations.
for sure. And then she starts sharing details about her life, and it gets, well, more complicated.
Yeah, tell me more.
So she's 42, 5'9", says she weighs about 230 pounds and works as a special ed teacher, owns her home, which was a gift from her mom, and considers herself middle class financially. She's had relationships before but never married, and she also mentions that she just became a Christian.
So a lot going on there. And it's worth pointing out that women, especially as they hit their 40s, often feel a ton of pressure to have already hit certain milestones, married, kids, the whole deal.
Right, it's like society has this timeline, and if you're not on it, something's wrong.
And that pressure can be really tough. It can mess with your self-esteem big time.
Totally. Now, on the other side of this conversation is Kevin Samuels. He's got this very direct style, sometimes comes off as confrontational even. He's all about truth, as he calls it, even if it's harsh.
Oh, yeah, I know that style.
Hmm.
Not everyone's cup of tea.
Definitely not. He actually directly challenges her about how she sees herself, the choices she's made.
Yeah, it'd be tough to hear.
Yeah, for sure. And he uses some pretty strong language in these kind of provocative metaphors. It's like he's trying to shake things up, wake her up to some hard realities.
Definitely memorable.
Oh, you remember it. For example, he compares trying to find a partner at her age to being at last call at a bar.
Ouch.
Yeah, or like shopping at the outlet center of life, as he puts it.
I could see how those analogies would grab your attention, but they could also be pretty hurtful if you're on the receiving end.
Totally. Depends on how you take it, right? Some people might find it funny, others would be offended.
It's definitely a risky approach, that's for sure.
And it's interesting, because his style, those analogies, they kind of reflect a bigger trend in certain relationship advice circles, what some people call the manosphere. They have this super pragmatic, almost cynical take on relationships. A lot of talk about power dynamics, market value, all that.
Yeah, the manosphere. It's a whole other can of worms we could open.
Another day, maybe. But what's interesting is that Kevin Samuels really zeroes in on the woman's finances, her money situation.
Really?
Yeah, he keeps pressing her about retirement plans, future financial stability. It's almost like her desire for a partner is secondary to her bank account in his eyes.
Hmm.
He even goes as far as saying she probably missed her shot at marriage because she rejected a guy earlier in life for not having enough education.
Wow, he doesn't hold back.
No, he doesn't. And it's tricky, right? Because on one hand, maybe he's pushing her to be more responsible, to think practically about a long-term relationship. But on the other hand, it feels super judgmental. Like he's totally missing the emotional side of things.
Right. It's like reducing a complex human experience down to a spreadsheet.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Definitely.
And that brings us to the heart of this whole video, the clash between their two perspectives. You've got this woman who wants a traditional family bumping up against Kevin Samuels' assessment of her attractiveness, her value in the dating world.
Yeah, it's a stark contrast for sure. She's looking for someone who shares that desire for marriage, kids, the whole domestic picture.
Yeah.
And he's all about financial independence, personal responsibility, this very like transactional view of relationships.
Right. It's almost like they're speaking different languages.
It is like that, yeah.
And then you throw in her faith. She talks about how becoming a Christian has influenced her desire for that traditional family, and Kevin Samuels basically dismisses it, like it's not even relevant.
Wow. It's fascinating to me how their communication styles are clashing too.
What do you mean?
Well, Kevin Samuel's style, it might motivate some people, but for others, it can make it really difficult to feel heard, like really understood.
Okay.
That bluntness could actually shut down any real honest conversation.
That's a great point. It's like, even if she wanted to open up, his approach might make her put up walls.
Exactly. It's like a defense
Oh,
mechanism.
no.
When you feel attacked, you protect yourself.
So then the question becomes, what are the consequences of his approach? Could it be helpful in some ways, even if it's uncomfortable?
Well, I think there are a couple ways to look at it. On the one hand, some people, they might find that directness kind of refreshing. It cuts through all the BS and forces you to face some hard truths.
Yeah.
About yourself, your situation.
Like a wake-up call.
Yeah, exactly. It can be the push you need to look in the mirror and actually make some changes.
A dose of tough love, some might say.
Right. But the flip side is that approach can be really insensitive. Like there's
Yeah.
no empathy there.
Yeah, I can see that.
You risk shaming someone for their vulnerabilities, their past choices,
Mm-hmm.
and that can make them feel even worse, more hopeless.
So it's like a double-edged sword. Where do you think all this leaves our listener? What's the big takeaway from this part of the conversation?
I think the important thing is to remember there are a lot of valid perspectives when it comes to relationships, to personal fulfillment. What works for one person might be a disaster for someone else.
It's not one size fits all.
No, not at all. And we need to have these conversations, but we need to have them with honesty, respect, and definitely some empathy.
Well said. And that balance, that's even more important when you think about the bigger picture, the societal stuff that's woven through this whole conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about issues that so many people relate to. The pressure on women to achieve certain things by a certain age, financial independence in relationships, how dating and marriage are changing, and the impact of cultural and religious beliefs on what people expect from relationships.
Okay, let's break those down one by one. First up, the pressure on women, especially as they get older.
It's like a pressure cooker out there, honestly. Women are constantly getting hit with these messages about their biological clocks, the ideal age to get married and have kids, this idea that their attractiveness just plummets as they age.
It's almost like a ticking time bomb in their heads.
Right, and it creates so much anxiety, self-doubt. It makes you feel like you're falling behind in life.
And I imagine culture and religion play a big role in that too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Your cultural and religious background shapes what you see as normal in a relationship. Like some cultures put marriage and motherhood on a pedestal. It's the ultimate goal for women. In others, it might be more about individual fulfillment, your career,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and religion. Huge influence on dating, premarital relationships, the roles men and women play in a marriage. It varies so much.
So this woman in the video, with her recent conversion to Christianity and her wanting a traditional family, she's probably juggling a lot, her own beliefs, cultural influences, and all that societal pressure we talked about.
Oh, yeah, it's layered. And we have to approach these individual experiences with sensitivity, Realize there's no single right answer, no one-size-fits-all when it comes to relationships and life choices.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a minute. What about financial independence in relationships? That was a big one for Kevin Samuels.
Yeah, he was hammering that point. It's a debate that never ends, really. Some people are adamant that both partners have to be financially independent for equality, autonomy. Others say a more traditional setup can work just fine. One partner is the main breadwinner. It depends on the couple's values, their situation.
So there's no right or wrong answer, necessarily.
Not really. The key is that it's an open conversation, honest. Partners need to be on the same page about money, responsibilities, expectations. The bottom line is, both people need to feel secure, respected, and empowered in their roles, financially and otherwise.
Okay, so money talk is crucial. But what about the whole dating scene these days? How does that factor into all this? I mean, things are changing so fast.
Right. How we meet people, connect, form relationships, it's all constantly evolving. Think about online dating, social media, all the shifting norms. They've completely reshaped how we approach romance, commitment.
So the old playbook is out the window.
Pretty much. Those old expectations around dating, exclusivity, even how you get to marriage, they're being questioned, redefined, which is exciting.
Right.
but also brings new challenges.
It sounds like it's a whole new world out there, a lot to navigate.
It is.
Yeah.
And to make it work, you need to be adaptable, self-aware, and willing to try new things, new ways of connecting with people.
Okay, I'm trying to keep up here. So much to think about. We've got societal expectations, personal values, money, changing relationship norms. It's no wonder conversations about this stuff can be so complicated, so tense sometimes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you know what we haven't even gotten to yet? The psychology of all this.
Oh, right. That's a whole other layer to peel back. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on how our psychology, our minds, tie into all this societal pressure and the choices we make in relationships.
Well, the fascinating thing is, how much our psychology is tied up in all this societal pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Humans, we're social creatures. We want connection. We want to belong, to feel accepted, validated, right?
Yeah, we're hardwired for that stuff.
Totally. And when those needs aren't met, when we don't feel like we measure up to expectations, it can trigger a lot of anxiety, self-doubt, even shame.
It makes sense.
And especially when we're talking about dating and relationships, because that's so tied up in our sense of self-worth, how desirable we feel.
Like if you're not in a relationship or not in the right relationship, then something's wrong with you.
Exactly. It's like this unspoken rule. And it doesn't help that we're bombarded with messages from everywhere, the media, our friends, even family sometimes, about what a successful relationship is supposed to look like.
It's easy to get caught up in comparing yourself to others. Like, why don't I have that?
Right. We see all these perfect idealized images of love and relationships, and it's easy to internalize that stuff, to start measuring ourselves against these unrealistic standards.
So, how do you see this playing out in the conversation between Kevin Samuels and the woman in the video?
Well, you can see how his approach, that directness, the criticism even, it makes her defensive. She's feeling judged, scrutinized. And it's hard to really open up and self-reflect when you feel like that.
It's like she's shutting down to protect herself.
Exactly. It's a natural response.
Yeah.
When you feel attacked, you go into self-protection mode. And that makes it hard to have a real honest conversation.
So, even if he was trying to be helpful to motivate her, it might have had the opposite effect.
It's possible. It's a tricky balance. Honesty can be good, it can help us grow, but it has to be delivered in a way that encourages self-compassion, that empowers the person to make changes. Shaming someone, blaming them, it doesn't usually work.
It sounds like empathy is key, especially when we're talking about sensitive topics like relationships.
Absolutely. We have to remember that everyone has their own unique challenges, their own experiences.
Yeah.
What might seem simple to one person can be really complex and emotional for someone else.
Yeah, we all come from different places. And to add to the complexity, relationship dynamics are constantly evolving too. What worked for our parents might not work now.
That's so true. I mean, think about it. The rules around dating, courtship, marriage, they're all changing. Online dating has changed the game completely. And then you have shifting gender roles, economic realities. It's all contributing to this more diverse, fluid landscape of relationships.
It's like we're making up the rules as we go along.
In a lot of ways, we are. It's both exciting and a little daunting, I think. It opens up all these possibilities for personal fulfillment, for creating relationships that really reflect our individual needs and values. But it also means we're navigating uncharted territory. There's no clear map, no set guidelines.
So we're all kind of pioneers in this new world of relationships, experimenting, figuring it out as we go.
That's a great way to put it. And that process of experimentation, it can be messy, challenging, even heartbreaking at times. But it also shows how resilient we are as humans.
Yeah.
How much we crave connection and love.
It's like we learn and grow through those messy experiences.
Exactly. It's through those trials and errors, the vulnerability, the resilience, that we learn more about ourselves, what we need, what we're capable of.
So what does all this mean for our listener who's listening right now? What advice can we offer as they navigate all this?
Well, I think one of the most important things is self-awareness. Really taking the time to understand your own values, your desires, your non-negotiables in a relationship.
Like know yourself first.
Yeah, it's like having your own personal compass to guide you through all the choices, the possibilities out there.
Makes sense.
And that compass should point towards self-compassion too. Be honest with yourself about your strengths and weaknesses. We all have baggage. We all have insecurities. Acknowledge them with kindness, with honesty.
So no more striving for perfection.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being real. Embrace the messy, imperfect reality of who you are, what you want in a partner.
That authenticity, that's what really connects with people.
Oh, absolutely. It allows for deeper connection, more trust, more vulnerability.
So let go of the pressure to be someone you're not. Have the courage to follow what feels right for you, even if it's different from what society expects.
That's where the magic happens. And remember, that path might not be straight or predictable. There will be ups and downs, challenges along the way. But through it all, keep that spirit of resilience. Believe that you deserve love and happiness.
So self-awareness, self-compassion, resilience, those are the keys.
I think so. They give you the power to make choices that are true to yourself, even with all that pressure from society.
It's about defining success on your own terms, building relationships that help you grow, that make you feel good.
Perfectly said. And that brings us to a final question for our listener. In a world where the rules of relationships are constantly changing, how do you define your own path to happiness and fulfillment?
That's the big one, isn't it? It's a journey, for sure, figuring out what really matters to you and building a life that reflects that.
It's embracing the beautiful complexity of being human, having the courage to create relationships that feed your soul, that inspire you to live your best life.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into societal expectations, personal choices, and all things relationships.
We hope this conversation got you thinking, maybe gave you some new perspectives on your own journey.
Remember, there's no right way to do this. It's about finding what works for you, what feels right, what makes you happy.
And be sure to share your thoughts with us on social media. We love hearing from you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and embrace the beautiful messiness of it all.